Unsyndicated presents Off the Board, the weekly gambling show. Hosted by Blake Majchrzak and Mike Iavasile.
Hi.
Hey,
You're not. That's not your house.
do I look a little more official here at Sean's house?
You're just further away. I wouldn't say more official. I wouldn't say anything nice. I would just say you're further away.
I'm further away, but I'm as close as I'll ever get.
And I just realized as our intro was playing, I'm trying to post everything to socials, and I just posted Sean's episode of Off the Air from last night. I just shared that on Facebook.
Yeah, and I was about to redo that. So
No, that was Facebook. I haven't done Twitter yet.
Oh, okay. So
nobody cares.
Yeah, that's true. There's no one watching. I mean, if they are watching, they're so poor right now because of my bad betting. They hate us.
I got my ass whooped last week too.
Was how bad? I mean, we're gonna go over it, but let me get this. There was some excitement within the games because of, I don't know if you follow the Circus Survivor, the $14.2 million contest out there in Vegas was very exciting. At one point, a guy that held off his last pick to the Arizona game, at one point, he was the only one that was going to win. So he was going to win $14.2 million. So there was some excitement as I was following that, but it was the most vanilla set of games ever. Like, no one wanted to show their hands on anything that they're going to do next week. I was tweeting you that I was going to choke out coaches because none of them seemed to be wanting to do anything that had to do with not playing in Philadelphia or doing certain things. Like, it's like they had this evil plan that didn't make sense.
Well, McVay didn't play any of his starters, even though they still technically could have moved up in seeding, and they still almost won that game. So, does McVay know something that I don't know? It was just confusing.
And on top of, I mean, I get it, but we went over those numbers. McVay is not good in the first round of the playoffs when sitting his guys the week before. And yet they did it, and I don't get any of it. Quinn says he's going to play his guys. He pulls guys out early. So I didn't know what was going on. And then it just made me so happy to watch Raheem Morris just lose that game. That makes me happy because that guy's just not good.
I was just pissed because everything happened until that Chiefs game.
Yes.
Everything was good. The Bengals were going to get in.
Yes.
And then the Chiefs just obviously didn't play anyone.
Well, they did not play anyone. That could have been his worst game ever coached. I mean, to me, they said, we don't care whether Cincy gets in. That's not what we do. We're going to do our game. We're going to go out there and play. They clearly did not want Cincinnati in the playoffs, and they played like it.
But Cincinnati could have beaten Buffalo, right? Could have. Would have a better chance of beating Buffalo than the Denver Broncos do, in my opinion.
Oh, 100%. So, I mean, not to give it away, I've got a bet in that game. I'm going Buffalo in that game, and I'll give reasons why. But I would not have been going Buffalo if Cincinnati was in that game, because that game could have been 67-68, and somehow Cincinnati squeaks out a win, because this is the time when they start winning, right? They turn it around after the first 4 games of the year every year.
Also, I was obviously wrong about Sunday Night Football. I'll just hand up. I was wrong. The Lions defense played incredible. Alex Anzalone is he's just an animal. He's so good, and he makes everything work.
And so, would you have said that before? Like, if we had this conversation, let's say Anzalone doesn't play last week, and we have that conversation, could you say how important he is? Would you say that he's an impact player in the NFL?
I knew how important so because of my old job with the Mitch Albom show, and we interviewed Alex every week.
Okay.
So I've followed Alex for the last 2 seasons. Like, I've watched him very closely. If I was watching a game and he made a big play or something, I had to like mentally note that,
Gotcha.
because then I would have to pull sound for it for the next day when he was on the show.
Yeah.
So I knew how important of a piece he was, yes, but I didn't know to that extent.
Yeah, that absolutely blew me away and was extremely apparent what he means to that defense and what he brings to that defense. Because what they did Sunday night, if anybody out there outside of Aaron Glenn knew that that was going to happen and could have said that that was going to happen, they're lying to us right now. Because there's no one that I mean, I was blown away at what that defense was doing, because Ben Johnson and Jared Goff, what they did was negligible to that defense. They set that defense up to be just railroaded with all the turnovers, the just not possessing the ball and being in the red zone nonstop. And they came out basically with nothing. That was incredible. So, yeah, we got that one wrong. I was on the right side of the Lions, but that's a 35-30 game. That's
also
an over game.
So I was telling Todd this before the show, before you logged in. Obviously I got like railroaded by that game. I had the 2 individual bets, and then I'd put together like 2 separate same game parlays with like a touchdown scorer one and then like another one with some other props. I was losing everything.
Yeah.
And like, just to put in like to context, basically like the sum of all of my bets in that game was about $75.
Okay.
So when Gibbs scored the 3rd touchdown, I went full blown, got to win it all back. I had $10 in my account. I put it on Gibbs' next touchdown score. It was plus 750.
And you got it back.
So I won it all back.
That is one of the great American stories right there. We're gonna have
a comeback story.
We're gonna have a documentary on that. That is awesome.
And I'm sitting there because I watched the game over at a buddy's house, and my buddy tails all my bets, so he lost his ass too.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm doing this, and he was like, well, I'm gonna do it too. So we both like just sitting there, just win it all back, and I was like, well, it was a good day today.
That was good. That was good, because my most hated quarterback robbed me of all my money. Every one of those incentive parlays that I put together were all tied in to Kyler Murray because of how it upped it. I mean, Kyler Murray's props brought those from like 40 to 1 to 150 to 1. Like I was going for it. I wasn't messing around. I had some free bets laying there. And he didn't even come close on any of it. I mean, if he got 40 yards and a touchdown, I would have hit well over $1,000.
Yeah.
I mean, it was that I had, but again, it's a long shot, and that's why they are what they are. But I now,
and when we were talking about it, the thing, like I literally brought it up. I was like, that's the one part of the entire thing.
Yes, you did.
That I was like, I'm nervous about. I just don't, you never know what you're going to get out of Kyler.
Absolutely.
Are you surprised their coach didn't get fired? Because I kind of am.
The way they're doing one and dones now, because was this his first year before I get started? The second year. But the way they're getting rid of guys early, I wouldn't have been surprised. But as I've said, I don't mind him. He's got a little Dan Campbell in him. But
he's a dweeby Dan Campbell.
He's
not cool.
Well, because he's not winning yet. But I was listening. Funny you say that, because I was listening to a show coming on the way in, and they were going over, and I don't understand any of this scientific crap, this DVOA and all these numbers. These guys, I don't even know if they watch sports. They're mathematicians. They're computer geeks.
Nerds.
Yes, they're nerds. They're Sheldon Cooper, and he was spitting out in a team that he said. 2 teams. One's obvious. One is San Francisco, that he expects to have a big jump next year, because San Francisco isn't a bad football team. They can't stay healthy.
Yeah.
But their numbers came up. But the second one was the Cardinals. That they underperformed to what their numbers said they should, and he would expect a jump next year. So with that, and knowing that that's what a lot of NFL teams run off of, I'm not surprised that he's there.
No, I get it. I mean, that makes sense. They were so inconsistent.
Yes.
They were so frustrating to try and bet on, because you never knew what version of the team you were going to get.
Yeah, and I mean, I would be one to say that he's not the problem. It's a Kyler Murray problem. I don't like Kyler Murray, and I really don't like him now that he's got my money.
Yeah. Well, while we're on that note, we might as well just review last week's
more
stuff
garbage.
real quick. I mean, it wasn't great for either of us, so I'm not looking forward to it. Like we talked about that Bengals game, they obviously won. It was a push on here, but by game time that had gone to 2.5, 3.
Yep.
And I had it at 2.5, so I was pissed. Washington, like we talked about, that game was weird.
Yeah, that was a crazy. I don't understand what was going on in that game.
The Seattle game, the Rams just played good and covered. I mean, like, obviously Seattle wasn't really playing for anything except for incentives, but
that was it. And they made it clear. They said we're here to get him his money. And they got him his money just in time, because I don't know how much he could have done. He looked pretty hurt there by the end.
Yeah. Denver obviously smoked the Chiefs and killed Cincy's playoff hopes. And if they had done literally anything offensively, that over would have hit for both of us.
Yes.
But
and
it is what it is.
I said on the show, I said that we may get this because Denver might score 40.
Yeah.
Because that's what they do against bad teams.
And once Minnesota got into the red zone 3 times and got a total of 6 points.
Yep.
I knew that over was dead.
Yep.
So
yeah, that was when I was thinking of jumping on, because I think that that over right around halftime, before a couple field goals were kicked there, that it was right around 35. I think, like it came all the way down. It came all the way down. But this board right here sums it up, and this isn't a bunch of BS and just me just talking, because we have a podcast. That this right here solidified my first losing NFL betting year ever.
Even if you kill it in the playoffs?
Even if I kill it in the playoffs, there's no way. 'Cause I won't have that much of an opportunity to get there. I am. Yeah, I'm 16 games under right now.
Okay.
It's and I'm just the opposite, because I came out just barely profitable overall, and that's how much I killed it in college. And it's usually the exact opposite.
Yeah.
But I'd say, what was it, the last 5 weeks, I keep retweeting those tweets out to you about what the public has done and what the majority bettors have been taking like the last 4 or 5 weeks, and it sums it up. And part of that's on me. I've got to be able to see that, notice it, and get out of it, but I stuck on that unders and my unders and dogs all the time. And you've got to be able to see that and read the board a little bit differently. And hopefully I learned something this year, but I look at it, I can't even get mad anymore. That's just the way the year went for me.
We just reassess and we go into next year with a clean slate and go from there.
And maybe even reassess and go into this week a little bit differently. But we shall see.
So we can get to the updated records real quick. I'm right back at 500.
But that's a beautiful thing.
That's right there.
Thing. That is a beautiful thing, though. I mean, I am so far away. What is that? 15 under on the show in it? I mean, and the show is where really doing it, like you always say, I put you in situations where games you would take, but I've got to learn from those. I've got to be able to read that a little bit better and know that you can't go in to every bet and every game and every data point and read it the same way. I got very robotic in what I was
doing. We're learning and we're going to see growth from this, is what you're saying, Mike.
Wow, you just sounded like my betting therapist. I like it. I like it. Absolutely. Like I'm going to tell you, like, it was the last 4 to 5 weeks was really tough when I was doing my numbers and coming up with my little write-ups for the show and stuff. Like, I'm talking real tough. Even harder putting bets into my account.
Mm-hmm.
This week, I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was because it was so early, I didn't have that much to look at. I felt really, it was the first time in a long time I felt really good. Like I was seeing it a little bit differently. I'm still probably going to get killed. I don't have the greatest of feeling with what I'm putting out there, but I felt good when I was writing it.
The vibes are better.
That if you can tell, you go back and watch some of them. Like I was really a mess. Even when I'm reading from, I write this stuff down because I'm not the smartest man. So I'm reading from it, and I was still a mess. Even when I was like, I didn't know what I was reading, even when I wrote it, not just what I was reading in the data and stuff. So
You're smart. You have a system. I don't have a system. I go strictly off of the feeling in my balls, and that's it.
Hey, maybe that's what I need to start doing is trusting my balls. That
That's not a
tingle in my
bad
balls.
idea. You might get 500. Who knows?
I love it. I love it.
So you ready to get in these
I
playoff games?
I am ready to get into these playoff games because I think I've told you before, like my favorite weekend to go to Vegas for the longest time. Me and my wife did it like 10, 12 years in a row was AFC NFC championship weekend because I had 2 games to focus on. And I was real good. I've done really good those weekends. And that's what this reminded me of. I had 2 college games to look at. I didn't have anything. This first one's a little weird, but I'm ready.
We got 2 college games, but then also just super wild card weekend and all 6 of those games, which is, I mean, this is probably between college and NFL one of the best weekends of football we've ever had.
Yes, this is real good, and of course I'll be up in Traverse City calling hockey games, watching most of it on an iPad, but it's gonna be all right.
I'm sure Sean will have it all set up. You guys, he's not gonna go without seeing the game. So
no, we're gonna be good.
So tomorrow night, the first game is Notre Dame, Penn State. Notre Dame currently is favored by 1.5. The over/under is 45.5. Real quick, Mike, how much has this line like moved around? Because I know it has moved a little bit this week. Has it ever flipped?
I haven't seen it flip, but what I wrote this morning because I was going over my stuff is I saw some places had it at pick this morning.
Okay.
I haven't seen it flip to Penn State, but I have seen it as low as pick.
Okay. So I mean it's all over the board.
But literally, that's I've said this before, when you give these games this much time, that week and a half or 2 weeks, like the first round, everyone's betting on it. Everyone's using a different book. And we've said it before, you've pulled it up where you could pull up 5 books and there's 5 different lines there. It's only a half point here or there, but they're all different. So that's part of the difficulty of when you're reading data and trying to do it. There's just so much out there with this much time and this many bettors.
But it's funny because the over/under really hasn't moved much at all.
No. So in the beginning, though, it did. So the Superbook out in Vegas actually opened this at 50. Can you believe that? Oh, they got hammered. They got absolutely hammered. Most, I think, was about 47.5. I think I can't see my numbers here. I'm going blind, but I think it opened around 47.5. So that's not bad, but they still got drilled and dropped it down. But once it hit 45.5, it really hasn't. It's really sat there.
Because when I sent these numbers to Todd last week, it was at 46.5.
Yeah.
So it hasn't moved a whole lot since then, at least. So for me, and that one number though did change my mind on the over/under, and I was just like, I'm going to stay away from it. But I am going to stick with my original pick, which is Penn State plus the 1.5. I really like this Penn State defense, and I think that their physicality can really slow down a lot of what Notre Dame wants to do. Yes. It's really just in both of these games, I think it depends on quarterback play and wide receiver play for both of the underdogs. Like, how does Aller play? How does he look? And how does his wide receivers? We know what we're going to get out of Warren. He's going to make plays, and he's going to be hard for the Notre Dame defense to stop. But can you get some explosives from those outside receivers? And can your offensive line negate their defensive line? That's what it's going to come down to in both of these games.
Yeah.
So
both games, I mean, as soon as you pull it up, you look, and it's defense. I mean, probably the only one that's sticking out offensively right now, and that's just because of the last 2 games, is going to be Ohio State, right?
Yeah.
So when I looked at this game, I'm going to go with the total here. I had a lean on Notre Dame a little bit, but I without knowing 100% what Love's doing. But then as I looked at it a little bit more, I might end up on Penn State. with you, Blake, on this game. But this was when I looked at this, and I don't know if you had this. This was one of the toughest games, if not the toughest game all year. When I was looking at, because you have two teams that look real good, but they haven't done much. You go through that. That's both their schedules are really stinky, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not BSing you. I'm on the total here, and I wrote it up for the under, and I wrote it up for the over, and I let it sit all night. I came back this morning and I reread what I wrote down there, and this is where I ended up. So but I swear I didn't know where I was going with this, because money's on both sides. So, all right, both teams are coming in here. They got solid top 10 defenses, allowing a combined 28 points a game, Blake. That's what we said. When you see this game, you're thinking defense, defense, and defense. The public and the early sharp money saw this as an easy under, with around 70% of the bets coming in on the under. The books agreed with this. They dropped it from 47.5 down in some places to 44. Nothing that I could get at, but I've seen it listed at 44 or 44.5 in some places for a second. However, some late sharp money's hitting the over and on the sharper books, depending where you look at. I mean, and it's a contrarian one. It's a low amount. It's about like 18% of the bets, 40% of the money is coming in some of these sharp books on the over as we get closer to game time. In the last 12 weeks, no matter whether we question this schedule or not, Notre Dame is over this total 11 times. In the last 11 weeks, Penn State's been over this total 9 out of 11 times. Everything that I've looked at in that other write-up tells me this is an under game. But I'm fading my numbers, I'm fading my feelings, and I'm going over in this game, Blake. Believe it or not, I'm going over, and I'm looking at some misleading stats possibly when I look at this. Notre Dame has the number 5 rated defense against the pass, but it's a weak schedule that they're up against. And what I keep thinking of is that USC game where USC, I was texting you the whole time, USC was throwing the ball all over them. Think about what Penn State did with the Oregon game. They used a little bit of that pass. Aller looked good to open up that run. Again, Notre Dame's got a better pass defense than they do the run defense. Penn State's got the number 7 rush defense. Now, Love's not 100%. Notre Dame's going to need to pass the ball. They're not going to want to run into the teeth of this defense. They're going to pass on this ball. And if they can do that and they can get successful with that pass, I think that also will open up the run for them and make them not one-dimensional. The one thing I do expect, and why I ended up going to over, I do expect at least one defensive touchdown here. And I'm going to need it. And I think I'm going to need it. And the last thing I wrote down here was that scares me, that was pushing me towards the under on this game, was the game that Notre Dame lost against Northern Illinois. They're actually a pretty highly rated defense, probably the best defense I think that Notre Dame may have faced. And look what they did to them. I think it was a 16-14 game.
Yeah.
So that kind of scared me. So Penn State was right there. Rankings wise, I mean, I couldn't believe it. I looked as many rankings as I could, and Northern Illinois was right there with Penn State. But I'm going over in this game. I don't know why it's going to be there, but I do believe I'm going to at least get one defensive touchdown to help me.
Yeah, defensive or special teams, like Notre Dame's, I think, blocked 4 punts this year.
Yeah.
They have a very, like we saw it early in that Georgia game where they had the 2 like running into the kickers. And the first one like could have been blocked easily.
Yep.
Like we see a lot of those plays for that special teams unit. They have a very aggressive special teams. So something like that, 100%. I mean, because that changes the entire game script.
Yeah, for that to work, it's just they can't be one-dimensional. Leonard's got to pass the ball. Even I went back, I'm like, man, I thought he passed well against USC. I still think he was under 200 yards, but he was passing the ball. That opens it up, because you think about it, Blake, in the playoffs, a 98-yard touchdown run and a kickoff return. Their offense has absolutely sucked. So I'm going over.
Yeah. So, and it's like we talked about it. Okay, am I supposed to trust James Franklin, who, like we've talked about, he chokes, but Notre Dame, my entire life, has choked in big spots.
Yes, they have. I do. If you're going to give me a coaching advantage, though, I'm taking Notre Dame.
I agree, which is insane to think about. But Franklin's, he hasn't had as much doy this year.
No.
But we're still waiting for like that moment.
Yes.
You know?
But with a weak schedule where they were favored for the most part, except for that Ohio State game and the Oregon game, that's when he does well. It's when he's a dog. So this one going down to pick, who knows? But he's still he's going to go off as a dog here. Let's just say.
Yep. And the other game is that in my opinion, and I said this last week, and I will 100% stick with it. I think this is like the de facto national championship. Whoever wins this game, I will be taking in the championship, which is going to be very painful for me if it's one of these two teams.
Yeah.
But Ohio State, Texas. Ohio State is favored by 6. The over-under here is 53.5. Mike, you go ahead and go first on this one.
All right. Going into this game, I'm taking a total on this one too. Both teams have flown over this total in their 2 playoff games. In fact, for the whole season, these teams have been averaging over 70 points a game. A whopping 81% of the bets at one book and 76% of the bets on the other book like these numbers because they're all over the over right now. They're running to the ticket line to put their money on the over. However, despite this lopsided betting, Blake, this total opened 54.5 and has dropped down to 53.5. Now we have 2 of the top 10 defenses and a broken Texas offense, especially in the second half. We talked about that last week. Texas does not look good when they're off script. Sark doesn't know what to do. I expect this game to be closer to the Ohio State, Michigan, and the Texas, Georgia games. Texas has the D to force Ohio State to run the ball. They've got to stop that air attack that they've been doing. Is it Smith, the receiver, who's been out of control? 18-year-old stud. Come on. But Texas has got the D to force that run. Both teams will need to run the ball to win. I'm on the under.
I got to deal with that kid for 2 more years.
Yes, you do.
But yes, Ryan Day's not going to use him.
Unless he goes a little Maurice Claret. And here is another one. I don't write these things down all the time. I try to. But Ryan Day isn't the greatest as a neutral site favorite. But what I did catch out of that is I think he was like 8-1 or something like that to the under.
Okay.
Games as a neutral site favorite.
Now, how neutral is this going to be though? Because this game is in Dallas.
Well, even worse for Day.
Yeah. That's a part of it. And obviously Ohio State fans travel well. They're going to go to any game. They will have a very large population there. Like it's probably going to be like 60-40 Texas to Ohio State fans, but still like there will be more Texas fans with this game being in Dallas. I am going to take Texas plus the 6, and I'm also going to take the over. I said at the beginning of the season I thought it was Texas or Ohio or Oregon to win the Natty. And I'm going to ride with that. I think Texas's defense is, out of all 4 of these teams left, the best unit that we'll see on the field. That their defense is awesome, and they have the secondary to slow down Ohio State's receivers. I don't think you stop them, especially like we were just talking about Smith. He's insane. He's 18, 19 years old, and he looks like he could legitimately be playing in the NFL right now.
Oh, and he'd be the number 1 on the board, I think, right now.
Yeah. Well, yeah, especially because of his age. I mean, think about it. Like, body-wise, he hasn't taken the hits.
Right.
But I think it's going to all come down to Quinn Ewers and how he plays and how he shows up. Or if they end up changing on the fly and going to Arch. It's going to come down to Texas's quarterback play. I love the matchup for Texas's D-line against Ohio State's offensive line, which has looked better in the last couple weeks, but still, what competition. Like Oregon's defensive line has been kind of up and down this year. Tennessee's obviously was good, but I don't think it was on the level of Michigan's, and we saw what Michigan's defensive line did to that Ohio State offensive line. So,
and I'm tired of hearing this. We just treated that game like a scrimmage crap. I believe if Sark is worth anything, He knows that Michigan, Ohio State film inside and out. He has the offensive line and the defensive line to do exactly what they did. And then it's just going to be, is Ryan Day going to coach what he has, or is he going to go doy? And we know what the bets are going to be on. You're betting on doy if you're taking Texas, and it's you can't get away from it. You just can't. He's gonna have to show up to this game and dominate Texas, a good defense and a good offensive line, to start shaking that. And he's going to have, basically he's got to win the national championship. And as you said, I'm right with you. The winner of this game is going to be a heavy favorite.
Yeah. I mean, they'll probably be, what would you guess? At least a touchdown favorite in the national championship.
Yeah. I think I saw 9.5 if it was Penn State, Ohio State.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which, I mean, that makes sense. We saw that game.
Yeah. Right. 100%. They've got a data point to go off of right there.
I do want to talk about my brain being in a pretzel. If it's Ohio State, Notre Dame,
oh God, see,
I'm not gonna know what to do with myself.
Well, and that's I don't mean this pointed at you, Blake, but I will love it because it will drive people crazy. I don't want to drive you crazy. I like you, Blake, but I don't like people in general. And I think it is going to be the ultimate, like, oh my God, Notre Dame, oh my God, Ohio State, and I love when there's chaos like that.
The only thing I can hope for is Lou Holtz says something before the game about Ryan Day, and Ryan just loses his mind again. But I mean, that game last year was like incredible. That Ohio State Notre Dame game, like, don't get me wrong, for like football watching purposes, I honestly think that would probably be the best game.
Yes.
It's a tough matchup for both of those teams, and I think it would come right down to the wire. But like I said, I am a go Longhorns guy through and through for the rest of this playoffs. 100%.
I'll be rooting for you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And yes, Todd, you are 100% right. That is like in NCAA, Duke and North Carolina. Just those two teams, like the most. I mean, I have no room to talk. I'm a Michigan fan, so I was born into an entitled fan base. But those two fan bases. But you want to get real nerdy with it? You want to talk about ratings? That would be the highest rated national championship ever. Ohio State.
Oh my God, yes. Oh yes.
It would be insane.
That would be an absolute impossible ticket to get too.
Yep.
And I'll be happy right on my couch watching it.
So real quick before we get into wild card, do you have any future? Are you going to put in any futures for Super Bowl winner? Do you have any feel whatsoever?
I have no feel right now. I had a feel about a month ago, and I put in 2 exactas. I've got Buffalo beating the Eagles and the Eagles beating Buffalo. I did the math, and just picking Buffalo and the Eagles to get into it, I could take the same amount of money and split it up and put it into here and still double my money. So I've got the Eagles beating Buffalo, Buffalo beating the Eagles.
So I do have my Rams future.
Oh wait, no, you're right. Remember I did. I bet I was drinking, but I've got the Chargers at 35-1.
I don't hate that.
I don't hate it.
I really don't.
There's no difference between my 35-1 on the Chargers and yours on the Rams.
No, well, now the problem is now I could get the Rams at plus 4,500. The odds are. Yeah.
I thought you had. I thought you had them at 35-1.
I have them at 30-1. 30 to now 1. It's at 45-1.
Oh, so they're 45. And I think they're playing. I think they're playing better than the Chargers. To be honest with you,
Harbaugh.
Yeah. You know, and that's an experienced team. I mean, Stafford in the playoffs is going to. They got to get by this first game.
Yes,
obviously,
100%. But Campbell said that he was going to see the Vikings, so he was calling a shot there.
That's on tape. That is on tape. I'll see you in 2 weeks, he says.
But he said it in like the nicest way. Like he wasn't like, oh, you know what I mean?
That was just being respectful. Like, hey, we like what you did. You're the first 14-3 wild card team ever. Like, go get it done, and let's do this again.
I think that the AFC is wide open. I think the NFC, it's like a 2-team race. I think it's Philly and Detroit.
Philly, Detroit, Buffalo, KC. I mean, you can't take the KC out of it. Now, here's the
KC, Baltimore.
Yep.
I don't trust Lamar in the playoffs.
No, that is, and I put a bet, and I said I hope playoff Lamar gets fixed because I've gotten burned by him almost every year. I heard either Baltimore or Buffalo at KC AFC Championship. KC's a dog.
Really?
Yep. That's now. No, obviously nothing's official.
I'm telling you right now what I would do.
Oh, you have to, right?
Yeah.
You have to. At home playoff dog Mahomes. Were they a dog when they lost to Brady that year at home?
Patriots. I don't remember.
I don't remember. That
you could have told me that was 20 years ago, and I'd believe you.
That was a great game. That was such a great game.
No, what I'm hoping for, what I'm rooting for, in all honesty, I want Buffalo Detroit. I think it would be incredible.
That would the rematch of that game would be great.
Rematch, two fan bases that have had their hearts ripped out 1,000,001 times.
Over under 62.5.
Give me the over.
Oh, I would hammer the under. It's just that the Super Bowl total is so inflated every year. But I gotta be. I'm a sucker for it. I am at times, but I would have to imagine it would be too big.
Imagine though, like still there's one fan base that just gets their heart ripped out one more time. Like just the drama of it in New Orleans, everything about it. It would just be awesome.
That would be great. I would like it. I mean, that's
the one I'm rooting for.
Let's hope.
And then I would hammer the Bills. I really would. I'm gonna be honest.
I honestly I couldn't bet on it.
Yeah.
I couldn't. I can't sit there and feel good about myself winning money if the Lions lose, and there's not a chance in hell I would bet on the Lions and jinx them in the Super Bowl with the way my luck's go. Like there's no winning for me. I stay away.
My dad, because my dad like asks me what my picks are he calls me every Saturday. It's awesome. Mm-hmm. He doesn't gamble anymore, but he used to. But he asks me like, who are you taking this weekend? Blah 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 blah. And he was like, who are you taking for Sunday Night Football? And I'm like, I'm taking the Vikings. And he's like, so he calls me Monday. He's like, why do you hate the Lions? I'm like, Dad, I don't care. I'm so indifferent about them.
Yes.
Like I don't have an NFL team. I don't like pretend like I do. The closest thing I have is Joe Burrow and the Bengals. I'm just like, I'm indifferent. Like I never have cared. And he was
probably a good thing.
Okay, that's fair. Like that's fine. But he's like, you better get that figured out because he's like, I think they're going to the Super Bowl. I was like,
get that figured out. The dad comment.
My dad, you would love my dad. He's a character and a half, man.
That's good.
He's something else.
That is good. I hopefully I've taught my son as well as he's taught you, and my son's impartial too. I hope.
Yeah,
we haven't had the talk.
The only thing that I genuinely care about is Michigan football. Everything else, I'm like, yeah, I just like sports.
Yeah, that's good. It's not a bad thing. Fandom it can drive you absolutely crazy, and especially if you're latched on to the wrong one. Like I mean, any of us old timers go right to our dads and blame them. I mean, I am the way I am because of my dad. He was a Lions fan. He loves the Lions. He used to travel and go see him play in Dallas and all that crap. The Red Wings, everything. It's all on them. So hopefully I've steered my.
The Wings are the one other team that I'm like, I want them to do well and like I care because that goes back to like you were just saying, like my youth. Because I was born in 93. The Wings were on that run, and my dad was super like he loved it, so I was super into it. And now I care, but now they stink, so it's kind of hard.
Yeah.
But you're gonna tell coming up right after this, that's a great tease, is going to be What the Puck. And I'm sure you guys are going to be talking about the hot streak that they've been on lately and the coaching change and everything. So
A lot of
stay
happy
tuned. Stay tuned on this channel for that. And you'll get some hockey knowledge because you won't get it out of me. That's for damn sure. All right, let's get some super wild card weekend picks going.
Let's see if I can get myself off the NFL schneid that I'm on.
When Houston made the playoffs, you could have written it down in pen. You knew exactly what time this game was going to be played. It is always like 4:00 on Saturday when Houston is in the playoffs, no matter what. Houston is playing the Chargers in Houston. Chargers are favored by 2.5. The over-under here is 42.5. Like I said, I don't hate your Chargers bet at all.
Mm-hmm.
But if there's one thing I'm confident in this game, is the under. Because Houston's offense has been so up and down, and obviously they're very injured. Nico Collins has really been the only like solid productive player that they've now gotten back healthy. You never know what you're going to get out of oh my god, Mixon.
Yep.
If they're playing a good defense, he's probably not going to have a good day. CJ Stroud is going through sophomore slump. But I really like the Chargers defense. I think that's an outstanding unit, and obviously Jesse Minter's done a great job with them.
Yeah. And
I think it's time for Herbert. I agree with your Chargers like future, and I think this is a playoffs where we could see Herbert kind of like come into his own. But I like the under a lot, and after the week I had last week, I can't double picks on every single game, so I would lean Chargers.
Yep.
But I love the under here.
Yep. And the public, the pros and the Joes, they're all about on the same thing. I'm following you with the total here, Blake. The public sees this game one way. They've got the Chargers all day, and not only are 80% of the bettors on the Chargers, but 71% of the bettors are on the over, as they have seen the Chargers games blow way past this total like the last 5 or 6 weeks. However, even with a majority of bets and money on the over, this total opened 44.5 and has dropped down to where we have it at 42.5, sir. That is because there's sharp money on that. I'm going with the Chargers' #1 defense in the NFL, a much improved Texas defense, even though they didn't look it in that Kansas City game a couple weeks ago. Harbaugh is going to want to control the ball in this road playoff game. He's going to run. The Texans, we know you talked about, they got a depleted receiver core. It's basically Nico Collins right now and by himself. Mixon's going to have to run that ball, and they have to do it to protect Stroud. Stroud looks really shaky. I'm going on the under two. I'm siding with the sharps and the books. The books agree with this one too. This is a good one to be on.
Yep. And then Saturday night, we will be going to Baltimore, Pittsburgh at Baltimore. Classic AFC North matchup, and we got our boy as a big dog.
Yes,
9.5 points. Baltimore's favored by over under here of 43.5. So you go ahead, Mike. Start us out on this one.
And we know all the trends. We know all the Tomlin trends and stuff like that. But the Harbaugh trends in this one, where he's not even good against Pittsburgh himself, I think those are when it's a tighter window, like 3.5 to 5.5. When it gets big like this, I think this one really favors Harbaugh. And what I've going with the side here, sometimes the eyeball test is right and recency bias tells you an accurate story. These two teams are heading in the opposite direction. You got Baltimore, it's on a 4-game winning streak, easily covering in all 4. Pittsburgh is on a 4-game losing streak, 1-3 against the spread. In some books, they're 0-3-1 against the spread. Pros and Joes are on the same side here with a majority of money and bets on Baltimore, and the books agree pushing this line from 8.5 and 10. Now, the books will move a line like that, Blake, to get away from the teasers, right?
Yeah.
But I expect sharp money then's going to come back, and it's going to keep it right here around 9.5, because as soon as you hit 10, 10.5, people they just bet numbers, right? Some guys are just going to throw that on Pittsburgh. Something's wrong with Pittsburgh. Besides the 2 games against the bad Cleveland and Bengals defense, this offense has been scoring under 20 points 6 of its last 7 games. Pickens is off. I think now I can't think. It was the quarterback. Why can't I think of his name? Russell Wilson's looking like the Russell Wilson from Denver. It's not looking good. So yeah, I'm taking Baltimore. I'm looking for an easy win, and I'm praying for no backdoor covers. And this is where I wrote, I hope playoff Lamar is fixed.
I'm going to ride with the trend that I should have probably gone with last week, but this week for sure, I'm going to take Tomlin as a dog plus the 9.5. I don't like, you never know what you're going to get out of Lamar. Like you just said, George Pickens might get into a fight. We don't know what's going to happen with him. He's insane.
Yes, he is.
But I just see this as a lower scoring, tough, close game. I just think in the playoffs, 9.5 points is so many points.
Yes.
In the playoffs, we don't see a lot of these giant spreads. 9.5 is just a lot. I think Baltimore still will probably win by a touchdown. But if I can get it at 9.5, or like you said, throw it in a teaser, get it up to 10.5.
And not only was I shocked at that number, but I was shocked at the number of the sharp split on what was coming in on Baltimore. Like I think they're over Pittsburgh, they're over Tomlin. At some point, you become who you are, and you have to take a look at what Pittsburgh's power ratings were in the beginning of the year. And this, again, just like every other year, is the year that Tomlin's not going to be 500, right? But people were hammering that bet at the beginning of the year. So you have to, at the end, I guess you have to figure out who you really are. And I think the sharp bettors are telling you they really like Baltimore in this one.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think Pittsburgh is a good team. I don't think that they have a chance to win this game outright. I really don't. I just 9.5 so many points in the playoffs.
A lot of points. It's a lot of points to give Tomlin.
Yep. Next game, we got Buffalo at home against the Denver Broncos. Buffalo is favored by 8.5, over under of 47. This is the Sunday 1:00 game. I love Buffalo in this spot, though. I just think a rookie quarterback going into Buffalo. I know, like I just was talking about, a 9.5 point spread being too many points. I think Buffalo's on a mission this year. Josh Allen's playing like an MVP, and they got something to prove. They want to go play KC, and I love them. So I'm going to take that and roll with it. Give me Buffalo minus the 8.5.
All right, and I'm looking up right here because I'm dumb. And I've been meaning to do this, and I'm hitting buttons. I don't even know what I'm doing, but I want to get since 2002, rookie quarterbacks in their first playoff start as road underdogs have gone just 2-8 straight up and 3-6-1 ATS. That's what I was looking for. I've been meaning to get that because we also have Jaden Daniels, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, I'm going on the side with you here too, Blake. The pros and Joes are on the same side here. 64% of the bets, 74% of the money are on the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo's 10-1 with their starters in, with that only loss coming to the Rams in a look-ahead game the week before they played the Lions. Denver, on the other hand, is 4-4 in the last 8 with 4 wins against non-playoff teams, 3 losses against playoff teams. In fact, Denver has only beat 1 playoff team all year if you take that Kansas City game out last week. I'm taking Buffalo. I'm also leaning on the over. I'm just waiting for game day numbers.
I was trying to look it up real quick. It looks like Amari Cooper is going to play too, because he was just out for like a family emergency. So, because I couldn't remember if it was an injury or what was going on, because that obviously helps that Buffalo offense a lot. Just another weapon. So
yeah, well, absolutely. And there's nothing popping up or nothing that tells me that anything's off with that.
So, I would probably lean under here, but that number, it's just like right on that line.
The reason I say over is I think Denver, from what I'm hearing, is they're on their way out with their defensive coordinator. They kept him, if you remember, was that last year? They gave up 172 points to Miami, and they didn't fire him. They kept him, and they ended the year well, and that's what the expectation was for this year. They have not met that expectation this year.
Yeah, it's Vance Joseph, right? Who was the head coach there, which is hilarious.
Can you believe he's got 2 interviews too? That's
for what? Chick-fil-A and McDonald's? What is he doing?
Well, if he works at Chick-fil-A, he can still coach on Sundays.
I guess that's true.
But I just came up like that. I'm quick.
I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
Like, what is he interviewing for? My job?
I don't know, but
is he gonna be on the pod with us?
Yeah, right. Oh God, that would be great. We need. Do
you remember his first game coaching and the guy from ESPN? It was a Monday night double header, and Sergio Dip was like, there he is on the field. They took him off the air like at halftime of that game. Do you remember that at all?
Now that I did not remember that, but then you said that because what do you kids say now? It went viral.
Yeah, I have that video saved on my phone. That's how much I love it. Like Sergio Dip just fumbling over his words. It was incredible.
Bill here in the chat room is right. 8.5 and 9.5. That's a lot of points for the playoffs. But I think Denver is very much like Notre Dame and Penn State. That what they're showing in their record isn't what they've done during the year. I don't think they have a good body of work, and I think Pittsburgh is broken.
Yeah, I agree. All right, on to the next one. We got Philly against Green Bay. Philly is at home. They are favored by 4.5. Over under 45.5.
And
Mike, you go ahead.
I am up, and while I'm up, you need to search up. Has Jalen Hurts been cleared yet? I know he got 2 practice, but this first day of practice out of the concussion protocol is to tell you whether the headache stop and stuff like that. So this is a really tough one on what you're going to do. But so if you're going for the total, you might want to go for it right now, because I think this number's sitting here with the uncertainty of Hurts. But I'll start with the public sees 2 top 10 offenses scoring 54 points a game. With the starters in, Philly's over this total the last 2 weeks, and so is Green Bay. However, despite 61% of the bets on the over, this total opened 47.5 and has dropped to 45.5. Some of this might be due to Hurts' injury. However, more of it, though, is a sharp reverse line movement. You got 39% of the bets, but 53% of the money coming in on the under. So you know where I'm going. I'm going under in this game. You've got Watson's hurt. He's out. Love is banged up. Hurts is still in concussion protocol as far as I could. I'm listening to my shows today, and no one could say for sure whether he was in or he was out. So I see both of these 2 teams needing to lead on the run. This is going to be a Saquon Barkley game all day, whether it's Pickett, whether it's McPhee or McKee, whatever the kid's name is, or whether
Tanner McKee.
Because he's 6'7", by the way. Do you know that? They must have mentioned that 800 times during the game last week. But whatever it is, they're going to have to protect these quarterbacks. They're saying Love's 100%, but he clearly wasn't when they took him out. But so anyways, at 45.5, I'm easily going under, because this number could majorly drop if some big news comes out. It could also go up.
Yeah. What? Okay. Packers are 11-6, right?
Yeah.
They are the worst 11-6 team. They're just they don't seem like an 11-6 team.
But they're taking money in this game, and it's got to be because of the Hurts news.
I looked on Twitter. He practiced. That's all. That's
it. Yeah. So he's got to go and see how he responds to all the tests. Now he's in a dark room, right?
he's in that shed that Mike Leach put.
Yeah, right. Mike Leach, what a great! Oh God, is that guy?
Do you remember that story?
Yes,
it was the guy from ESPN's son that he threw.
Yeah, he was a running. The dad was the running back at SMU, wasn't he?
Yeah, the SMU running back. Yeah, what's his name? I don't think he's doing anything anymore now.
He went from that and being ostracized from just being an absolute legend by the time he passed away. Oh my God, his press conferences were unbelievable. But anyways, I don't want to. I told Todd I was going to stay focused.
No, that's my fault. 100%. I like Philly here. I even if McKee ends up being the starter, I like Philly, and I like the over.
I have a feeling I will be on Philly as soon as Hurts is announced.
Yes, but then that spread will just balloon up. It'll probably be like 6.5.
I don't know. I'm telling you, people love Green Bay. I don't think they'll let it get that.
Why? I don't get it.
Yeah. I mean, it got as high as 5.5, and I can't see it getting much more than that.
So, but, and yeah, I get what you're saying 100% with the two running backs, but Saquon's not a normal running back. Like he can break a big one. Like the way that he can make explosives unlike any other running back in the NFL. I mean, obviously at 2,000 yards this year.
Yeah.
And the fact that he could have broken that record, and I think he had 50 less carries than the one who has the record again. Oh my God. Yeah. He had 50 less carries and only 100 less yards. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Like he had an insane year.
Yeah.
Okay, on to the next one though. Washington at Tampa Bay. Tampa's favored by 3. Over under here of 50.5. I will start us out on this one. I see this as a field goal game. I see this as a very tight game. And with the spread being a full 3, I like Washington. If it was 2.5, I would probably be on Tampa.
Yeah.
I just see this being a very, very, very tight game. I love Baker. I love what Tampa has done this year. I'm happy that they were in the playoffs over Atlanta. I think that they're a much more dangerous team in these playoffs. Mm-hmm. If I wasn't picking against the spread and just had to pick who I thought and wanted to win, I'd be picking Tampa. Yeah. But with a full 3, I got to take Washington.
And I gotta tell you, when it came out, I'm gonna probably end up on Tampa. On game day. I just gotta wait again for game day numbers to come up the way I'm doing things now. I was surprised this was 3, and that's just because of the rookie quarterback on the road, first playoffs. He still doesn't look right to me. So I couldn't pull the trigger on Tampa Bay, so I'm going with the total here because the total also shocked me. But with the starters, Washington has gone over this number 4 out of the last 5 weeks. Tampa Bay is over this total 3 of the last 4 weeks. These are 2 of the top 5 offenses in the NFL, averaging close to 60 points. The public agrees with these numbers, and 71% of the bets and 60% of the money is on the over. However, it opened 50.5 and it hasn't moved. It stayed at 50.5. The books have taken a stand on this under, and they're not moving the number, and the sharp bettors agree. I see this as a run-heavy game. 2 of the top 5 run offenses trying to control this playoff game. Plus, I still think Daniels is not 100%, and Quinn's got to protect him. They're going to have to run the ball a ton, and not with him. I mean, he was still running the ball in a meaningless game on Sunday. I don't like Quinn, but I'm just going to go there. But you have 2 defensive-minded coaches. I think they're going to want to stay on top of this one, possess the ball, and try to take control of this game. I'm going under the 50.5.
Bucky Irving, by the way, is awesome. And he's a sick name.
Right?
Like, that's just a sick running back name. Like, that's old school. You got Bucky.
With the name Bucky Irving, that is, he had no choice but to be an NFL running back.
Exactly. And then the last game, the Monday night game, which that ESPN was just praying that Minnesota would win that game on Sunday so that they could just pump up another Detroit Rams game. That's all they really wanted. Yeah. Once I saw that schedule out, I was like, oh, I know what the networks want.
Oh,
but I mean, obviously we saw this game earlier in the season on Thursday night. That missed face mask for Minnesota right at the end of the game. But Minnesota at LA, Minnesota's favored by 1.5 on the road, over under a 47.5. Mike, you go ahead and get us going on this one.
We were talking about that Penn State Notre Dame line movement. I've seen this game as low as Pick'em 2, and I would not be surprised with the way the Sharps are loving their Rams if this does not go off with a dog to fave on the Rams. So at this number right here, which I'm sure you can find it, because as we've said, with how much time there is and how many people are betting, these books are all over the place with these numbers. But I'm going with a side here. The public sees the Vikings coming in with the better record. The public loves to bet on the better record. Matter of fact, Blake, this is the best record ever for a wild card team. The public thinks this line is way too short, and they're running to lay these points. However, despite 68% of the bets and 66% of the money on the Vikings, it opened 2.5. And like I said, I've seen it as low as pick'em. The Rams are this. But this is going to be tricky because with all that money and all those bets, the Rams are a fade the public contrarian play with only 32% of the bets and 34% of the money. But let's do the math here. 32% of the bets, 34% of the money, and the line is moving towards the Rams. The books are telling you something. The pro bettors are telling you something. I'm siding with the pros. I'm siding with the books. Give me the Rams and the 1.5. And here's a couple of trends. Usually I have those trends. I saved them all the way to this last game. In the wild card, home dogs are 8-2 against the spread in the last 10. In the wild card, dogs overall are 24-12 against the spread. I always save the special one for last, Blake. In the wild card, dogs playing a team that was not in the playoffs last year, 14-1 against the spread. Rams all day, baby.
I went back and forth on this, and I just was like, I'm gonna just do it, and I'm gonna take Minnesota. Dan Campbell called a shot, so I have to listen to him, and I'm gonna take Minnesota. Yeah, but like you were saying too, this line is all like right now. It's anywhere from a pick, 1.5.
Yeah.
3 different books, 3 different lines.
Yep.
It's all over the place. I also like the over here. I think that this is going to be a high-scoring game. And for me, a big part of it was I think Sam Darnold has to play well. It like for him to not show up in 2 straight weeks with basically a playoff game last week and now in the playoffs, that could change his career like trajectory completely, because at that point it's like, yeah, you were great during the regular season, you beat up on some bad teams, but like when it mattered, so it's a lot of money in his pocket. It could change a lot of things for him. I like this Minnesota team. I liked them last week. Obviously I was wrong about that, but Justin Jefferson, come on.
Yeah, I agree, but the NFL, if the NFL is one thing, it's a copycat league. And when you have a coach that is a good coach, and I'm sorry, Sean McVay is a good coach. He's a smart guy. He is going to he's going to have a game plan that's going to make Sam Darnold look like he did against the Lions. And they couldn't stop mentioning it, that the way he had that look in his eye. He had that New York Jet Darnold look in his eye. And I give the guy all the credit. Up till that game, I was trying to back the Vikings all the time, saying that they were being disrespected. But this is when it comes time. I mean, this is you're facing a better quarterback on the other side, a better defense on the other side. It's a playoff game. Even though you're going to be on the road, I'm sure there'll probably be more Viking fans than Ram fans there. LA fans are fickle like that. But I like it. This could totally blow up on me. I mean, I would be happy for Sam Darnold and the Vikings, because I do think they've been disrespected. They did have a good year. I like their coach. He's going to be coach of the year, no matter what anyone says. And maybe it is a little sharp love on the Rams, and people are the sharp side's really liking them. But I see this. I see a nice Matthew Stafford win here.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I could be 100% wrong. So, I mean, Stafford in the playoffs, he's obviously proven himself there. So,
yeah,
it would be great.
Hey, playoff football starting tomorrow. 5 or 4 straight days? I can't even count. 5 straight days of play.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
Back it up! Holy shit!
Yeah. Hey, you're not allowed to swear on the air. Todd, do we have the jar
not on the air. He's officially not on the air.
His voice is on the air. This is his. We're on his network, and he's over there cursing. He's not allowed to. He knows better.
Being so
I'm sorry, my dad is showing up.
My God.
All right. Well, on that note,
On that
stay
note,
tuned for What the Puck coming up right here on this same channel, right after us. Does he know I'm talking? This is just rude at this point.
Gosh.
Stay tuned for What the Puck. We'll see you next week. Have a great playoff weekend.
absolutely.
Goodbye.
You've been listening to Off the Board. Tune in all throughout the football season for weekly picks and insights. Subscribe to Unsyndicated and Off the Board on all your favorite social media and podcast platforms.